Welcome back, everybody, to the Fantasy Birds. Today, we are back with some 2024 fantasy football. Today, I'm going over 5 breakout players for this upcoming season. I'm looking to have huge breakout campaigns in 2024 fantasy football. Let's not waste your time. Let's hop right into these 5 guys. I love drafting to have breakout seasons. First, I think is going to have a giant 2024 season is Bijan Robinson of the Atlanta Falcons. Now, obviously, last year, Bijan was drafted highly in the first round of most fantasy drafts. Definitely did have a disappointing rookie season in fantasy, but still able to put up over 900 rushing yards. Now, he doesn't eclipse the 1,000-yard rushing mark and only is able to get 4 rushing touchdowns last year. But I think Robinson is going to have a huge season and solidify himself as a top 5 running back in fantasy. And I believe Bijan has a great chance to be the number 1 overall running back by the end of the 2024 season based off of a couple of measures. Number 1, the Atlanta Falcons have a top 5 offensive line coming into this year, ranked by PFF. So behind a very good offensive line with some upgraded quarterback play with Kirk Cousins, we've seen Kirk Cousins, when he's at his best, it's with a strong run game and playing off of that with the play-action pass. We saw that in Minnesota with Dalvin Cook for so many years. Play action, getting Cook the ball really led that Minnesota offense, and I think Bijan is going to be just that. Now let's look at some of the numbers he had in his rookie season. While the rushing attempts were mitigated by Arthur Smith spreading the ball around to multiple running backs in that Atlanta backfield, we saw this when Arthur Smith was the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans with Derrick Henry. First year as OC, Henry does not have a monster year under Arthur Smith. It took year number 2 when Derrick Henry had that 2,000-yard rushing campaign. Arthur Smith, obviously no longer the head coach for the Atlanta Falcons. I think that could open up the door for Bijan to run wild for this Falcons team. Not only do I think his rushing attempts, yards, and touchdowns will increase this season, last year, quietly, Bijan had the 4th highest reception total for a rookie running back in NFL history. Number 4 highest total receptions. Not many people are talking about that. So in your PPR leagues, he's still going to have a very high floor regardless of what he does on the ground, which I think is going to be pretty insane. Not only will the workload be bigger for Bijan this year, the Atlanta Falcons actually have the 7th easiest schedule for running backs. They're going up against some of the worst rush defenses in the National Football League this year. So I think Bijan is going to have a monster campaign with Kirk Cousins leading this offense. Should have some better quarterback play, even coming off that Achilles injury. If Cousins is able to upgrade this offense, you're going to have more trips to the red zone, more opportunities for Bijan to punch it in on the goal line. Only getting those 4 rushing touchdowns last year. I expect that to upgrade with this offensive upgrade in Atlanta. I think getting Bijan in the back end of the first round is going to end up being a steal this year. I love drafting Bijan as a breakout running back in 2024 fantasy football. The second guy on my list today is Jackson Smith-Njigba for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I talked about him last week in my 5 buy low wide receiver video in Dynasty. So a lot of the same arguments there are going to be why I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to break out in 2024. Now, the rookie season for the first wide receiver taken in the 2023 draft, the rookie numbers were not great. They don't jump off the page like we've seen in previous years with some of these rookie wide receivers, but I think the bar has been set too high by the Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Puka Nacua last year. These are outlier wide receiver performances for rookie wide receivers. So I don't want to be discouraged off of JSN's rookie year and think that he's a bust right out of the gate. We saw some promising things from him. JSN was the number 21 receiver in yards after the catch, which we know has been one of the best predictive stats for fantasy success. Guys like A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, Tyreek Hill. This is the new age wide receiver in the NFL that are looking to get guys the ball and have them deliver yards after the catch. Being dynamic playmakers is really the name of the game in the NFL right now. And Smith-Njigba definitely had that ability in his rookie year. Not only did he have great yards after the catch numbers, he was actually number 6 in separation yards. So he's getting open out of the slot for the Seahawks. It's just a matter of getting him the ball more. And we saw the beginning of the season, the snap percentage wasn't as high as we would like. But for any rookie wide receiver, we can't expect him to have a full complement of the offense from day one. But we did see his snap share tick up as the season progressed. So that's encouraging for JSN. Not only that, I think Tyler Lockett, who does a lot of his damage out of the slot, is going to be phased out of this offense at 32 years old by the end of the season. Smith-Njigba drafted as the number 1 slot wide receiver in 2023. I think with Tyler Lockett getting phased out, we've seen declining numbers 3 years in a row for Tyler Lockett. The yards per reception, and the touchdowns have all taken significant dips. Last year, under 1,000 yards for the first time in 5 years for Tyler Lockett. I think that's going to continue, and JSN is going to break out for the Seattle Seahawks offense. With DK Metcalf on the outside, Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to dominate in the slot and around the line of scrimmage for the Seahawks. I expect him to have a great second year in the NFL, especially in your PPR leagues, where those wide receivers definitely get a bump up like the Amon-Ra St. Browns in Detroit. I think this is where he has the ability to do significant damage in your fantasy football leagues. Next guy I'm going to talk about as a breakout player is Anthony Richardson for the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I don't talk too much about quarterbacks on this channel because a lot of people play in one quarterback leagues where, quarterback isn't the most important position, but in your Superflex leagues, definitely plays a pivotal role. Not only that, I think in your regular leagues, Richardson has the ability to be a league-winning quarterback like we saw from Jalen Hurts 2 seasons ago. Richardson still basically a rookie coming into his second year. He only played, I think, 4 games, and he left early in 2 of them. So the injury risk is definitely a concern with drafting Richardson. But if he's able to stay healthy, he's going to win fantasy leagues. In a very small sample size, he's got a rushing touchdown in each of his NFL games. Not only is he scoring on the ground, but he's giving you right around 40 rushing yards per game. With 40 rushing yards and a score on the ground, that's 10 points right out of the gate from Anthony Richardson, and he hasn't even had to throw a pass for you to score any fantasy points. Now, passing, definitely not his strong suit at this point in his career. At the University of Florida, we definitely saw him struggle throwing the ball, but this is fantasy football. We're not trying to win a Super Bowl. We're trying to win a fantasy championship, and what plays in fantasy football is rushing quarterbacks, running the ball, and that is exactly what Anthony Richardson is going to be able to do behind a top 5 offensive line projected this upcoming season for the Indianapolis Colts. They definitely had their struggles last year, but they're fully healthy. Jonathan Taylor is back. He is signed for this year. He's going to be playing. That, I think, helps Anthony Richardson more than anything. Having a key in on a dynamic running back and a dynamic quarterback, giving defenses so much to worry about out of the backfield. I think this Colts offense is going to look very good, especially with that coaching staff coming from that Jalen Hurts regime. Who better to coach Anthony Richardson than somebody who has developed Jalen Hurts into what he has become today? We know the rushing game is going to be there for AR-15 for him, but not only that, the passing game could look pretty elite this year with guys like Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, and they add A.D. Mitchell in the draft in the second round. So you're looking at 3 very nice targets for Richardson to throw the ball to. When, like I mentioned earlier, we're not even relying on his passing game ability. This Colts team can get into some shootouts in the AFC South with teams like C.J. Stroud, that wide receiver core, and Trevor Lawrence coming with a new big contract. This high-powered AFC South could look to put up some serious fantasy numbers, and Anthony Richardson definitely going to be one of them with how dynamic of a player he is. Just has to stay on the field for us, but I really like his ability to break out in fantasy this year as maybe the most dynamic rushing quarterback alongside Lamar Jackson in the NFL in 2024. The next guy I expect to have a giant season is Dalton Kincaid for the Buffalo Bills. Now, Kincaid isn't getting that much hype coming into the season. I'm not sure why. I think he has the ability to be a top 3 tight end with Travis Kelce maybe declining at age 35. Kincaid's numbers weren't overpowering last year, but over the last 11 games, he quietly was putting up some pretty significant performances. It was aided by Dawson Knox's injury, but over these last 11, 58 catches, over 550 receiving yards. Not to mention his best 2 receiving performances at the end of the season were when Dawson Knox came back and was playing alongside him. So I'm not too worried about Knox cutting into Kincaid's work. I talked last week about why I believe Khalil Shakir could be a sneaky fantasy producer this year. Same logic can apply with Dalton Kincaid. Losing over 240 vacated targets this Buffalo Bills team did, with the likes of Stephon Diggs being dealt to the Houston Texans and Gabe Davis going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. You're losing your 2 top wide receivers, having to rely on some guys they signed through the draft. Not something I want to be personally banking on. I want to look at Dalton Kincaid, just a year removed from being a round 1 tight end selected in the 2023 NFL Draft. Kincaid was number 2 in snaps out of the slot position for tight ends. I bring up this slot position because it's the easiest position on the football field to funnel targets, which is going to help us in fantasy in those PPR leagues where receptions are so valuable. Going along with that, Dalton Kincaid was also had the 4th highest reception total for a rookie tight end. Now, no one's talking about Kincaid and what he did because Sam Laporta, as a rookie, broke the receptions record for rookie tight ends just last year the same season as Kincaid, so he's going to get all the publicity, and he should with how great of a rookie season he had. If I can get Kincaid much cheaper than Sam Laporta, and we're talking about a guy who is just a couple spots down on the all-time rookie tight end receptions record list above Kyle Pitts, what he did a couple years back, Kincaid is definitely someone I want to look into targeting, as there's nobody left on the outside that Josh Allen can say he truly trusts. With Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis gone, Kincaid could solidify himself as the number one target for Josh Allen in a high-powered Buffalo offense. That could be groundbreaking in fantasy if Kincaid is able to put up some elite numbers and become that favorite target. Number 5 on this list is going to be Ladd McConkey, the rookie out of Georgia, drafted by the Los Angeles Chargers and John Harbaugh. Now, McConkey, this is the only rookie on this board, as I believe it's hard to predict rookie breakouts. But who's in a better spot than Ladd McConkey to break out alongside Justin Herbert, a top 10 young quarterback in the NFL, behind a very good offensive line built by John Harbaugh? You know, he relies on great offensive lines and running the ball. McConkey at Georgia, not the best numbers, but we know Georgia football, they don't need to rely on that offense and throwing the ball. They're going to run the football and play amazing defense with all the 5 stars they have on that defensive line. So I don't want to discredit him based off his college production. He also had Brock Bowers alongside him, eating up receptions. Let's look at this Los Angeles Chargers offense, especially on the outside. They lose pretty much everything outside of Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnson, who looks like one of the biggest busts at the wide receiver position in a long time. Not going to write him off yet, but it just does not look promising after that rookie season with all the opportunities that he had. Chargers are losing Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler. Probably their 3 top pass-catching options. We talked about all the vacated targets that the Buffalo Bills were suffering from with their 2 top pass catchers. But this Chargers team is on an entirely different level. The most vacated targets in the entire National Football League coming from 2023 into 2024. Nearly 400 vacated targets. That is pretty much your entire wide receiver core right there. Eckler, Mike Williams, and Keenan Allen, your top 3 pass catchers, all gone in free agency. Somebody has to catch the football from Justin Herbert. If you want to trust Quentin Johnson, be my guest, but I think Ladd McConkey, rookie out of Georgia, is in about as good a spot as a rookie wide receiver can be in. Taking a stab on Justin Herbert's top target is probably a pretty solid bet in most cases, which is why Ladd McConkey is my 5th candidate to break out in 2024 and his rookie season out of the University of Georgia. But those are my top 5 breakout players for 2024 fantasy football. Let me know what you think of this list. I had Bijan Robinson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Anthony Richardson, Dalton Kincaid, and we ended it with Ladd McConkey. Let me know what you think of this list. If you have somebody that you are drafting to break out in 2024, drop it in the comment section. I love hearing your guys' opinions. Love talking with you guys in the comment section. Anything fantasy football, let me know. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to the channel, because we are going to be ramping up our 2024 fantasy football content, getting you ready for your drafts and trying to win some more championships in fantasy football. But let me know what you think of today's video, and thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next week with another episode of The Fantasy Birds.